Sukkot, and we had a special Torah reading. So you might have expected that it would be about Sukkot, but it wasn't, was it? That one would be read on the first day of the holiday of Sukkot if you have a service on the first day. Today's reading, rather, is one that we get to hear 3 times a year in its regular place in the Torah, Parshat Ki Tisa, and on the Shabbat that falls during Sukkot, and the Shabbat that falls during Passover. So this reading is in the normal course of the year. It's part of Ki Tisa. That is the Torah portion in Exodus in which the Israelites get impatient, waiting for Moses to return from his communion with God, where he's up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. You know, he's up there, he's getting the Torah, he's getting all the laws. And meanwhile, down in the camp, if you saw the movie, you know, things go south. People begin to worship a golden calf. They're having all kinds of inappropriate revelries. It's worse than Chico State, which is where I used to teach, party school. It was out of control. And Moses comes down from the mountain where he's been in this state of spiritual rapture, getting all the laws, and he smashes the tablets. So we don't read that part today, but by the time we get to today's reading, the people have been chastened and they're hoping for God's mercy and God's renewed presence in their life. And Moses is also pleading on their behalf. In fact, Moses successfully argues with God to spare them, and he now asks to behold the divine presence. And as you heard so beautifully read in the translation, God says that Moses will be able to see God's back, for no human being can see God's face and survive. As we read today also, God tells Moses to carve 2 new tablets of stone like the first, and God's going to inscribe the 10 commandments. The first set of tablets were all divinely made, perfectly divinely made, and written by God. But the second one is a collaboration of human beings and God, because Moses carves these tablets and then God will write on them the 10 commandments. Moses goes up on Mount Sinai with that second set of tablets, and protected in the cleft of the rock, the divine presence does indeed appear to him in a cloud of glory, proclaiming what you heard in a few different versions today, what came to be known as those 13 attributes of God, which probably you heard them recently on the days of awe chanted. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum Vechanun, Erech Chaim Rav Chesed Ve'emet, Notzeh Chesed Lalafim, Notzeh Avon V'Fesha V'Chata V'Nakeh. Adonai, of course, though in the original it wasn't Adonai, it was the actual ineffable name of God, the Yud He Vav He, El, God, merciful and gracious, exceedingly patient, abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, and cleansing. The rabbis audaciously edited it right there, because in the Torah, it goes on to say, not quite. In fact, the sins of the parents are visited to the 3rd and 4th generation on the children. I was going to say, like, that's for another day. Let's not go there today. But as I heard it today, I was thinking about how our sins are, in fact, being visited on our children as we look at the environment and the things that are happening. So you could see it in a more natural. So considering that we've worked this reading into our annual Torah cycle 3 times, and this chant into our liturgy on the high holidays and other important occasions, it's clear that our sages thought this is really an important message. They wanted to hammer this home. And this is what I'd like to explore with you today. Why did Moses have to carve a new set of tablets? Before we can look at that act of reconciliation, let's go back to the moment of the breaking, the shattering, which happened in the chapter preceding the one that I chanted from today. As soon as Moses came near the camp, saw the calf and the dancing, he became enraged, and he hurled the tablets from his hands and shattered them at the foot of the mountain. So, before we go further, what do you really think was actually happening? I mean, it might seem obvious. The simple meaning is that Moses got mad and smashed the tablets. We all know that he had kind of a temper sometimes. But our tradition actually has a more nuanced approach and gives Well, you know, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, right? Although only here everyone agrees all the time on everything, right? But what was really going on when Moses broke the tablets? And how many, I'm gonna give you some options. And even if you're on Zoom, you might have your camera off, but just go ahead and vote anyway. So the first option would be Moses was furious. Moses was angry and broke the tablets. Anybody? I got to give you all the options first. Okay. The second is Moses is sad and exhausted. Oh, these people. And these aren't just things I made up. These are actually in the Midrash. This is in Midrash Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. There's different concepts like that. The letters were so holy. They flew up to God, leaving just the dead weight of the tablets. Moses, not so young, worn out with these people, just drops them and they break. So angry, exhausted. 3, actually, Moses had the best interests of the people at heart because he knew that they were breaking the covenant, but they hadn't quite sealed the deal yet, right? He hadn't brought it down. So if he smashed the tablets, they would be off the hook. He did it out of love to protect them. This is also in the Midrash in Exodus Rabbah. So furious, exhausted, or trying to protect the people mercifully. Okay, so you can vote. I'm from Texas. You can vote early and often. So, okay. So I don't know. I'm not gonna. Okay, I won't make any Texas voting jokes. No. Fear. Okay. So how many think he was furious? Furious, angry. Okay, good contingent. How many think he was just exhausted? A few. And how many think he really had their best interests at heart? And I think that might be the majority, right? Okay, so let's see. What? The answer is there's a 4th option. You know, there's never just one right answer. The Torah has 70 facets, but I'll give you 4 facets of this. So there's another way to tell the story. And that is in the 2 Talmuds, in the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, and in the Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud. According to the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, Tractate Tani, there's actually a kind of divine tug of war happening between Moses and God, where Moses prevailed and pulled the tablets down to earth. So, and God was happy that Moses broke the tablets. It says there in Hebrew, Yefe asita sheshibarta. Good for you for breaking them. You did a good thing by breaking them. What? Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Yonatan, these tablets were 6 handbreadths long and 3 broad. Moses was holding 2 handbreadths. God was holding 2. In the middle, there's 2. There's a space of 2 handbreadths. And when the Israelites worshiped the golden calf, the Holy Blessed One wanted to snatch him back up to heaven out of Moses' hand. But Moses' hand was stronger. And he snatched them from God. And we will soon read in the scripture at the very end of the Torah, when you get to Simchat Torah, right? That it says, Moses is praised ulechol hayad hachazakah, for all the mighty hand. Did you ever wonder what that mighty hand was of Moses? It was the mighty hand that grabbed those tablets and so hard that snatched them from God, but they fell to the ground and they broke. But he says, may there be peace, God said, so to speak. May there be peace on your hand that you broke those tablets, Moses. Still puzzling. The Babylonian Talmud says it even stronger. God actually told Moses, according to the Babylonian Talmud, Yasher Koach for breaking the tablets. You know, like you do the wedding when you break the glass, Mazel Tov. Yasher Koach. Because Pa'amim shebitula shel Torah zeu yusoda. Sometimes in breaking you save things. Sometimes in breaking something apart, you save the very foundation of the thing that you broke. How can that be? Reish Lakish says, sometimes the apparent canceling of Torah is its foundation, as it's written when God refers to the 2 tablets, Asher Shibarta, which you broke. And then the Talmud makes a pun, because the word Asher is an allusion to the fact that the Holy Blessed One said to Moses, your strength is true. Yishar, it sounds like Asher. Yishar kochacha, Yasher koach to you, Moses. You broke those tablets. Yasher koach, because by breaking those perfect tablets, you've led to the real foundation of the real Torah through the giving of the 2nd tablets. Let that just sink in for a moment. Both of our Talmuds imagine God praising Moses for breaking the tablets. Breaking the tablets wasn't a bad thing. It was a necessary thing, because without them, we wouldn't have the second tablets that we read about today. And Moses might not have beheld the divine presence and learned those 13 attributes and learned about tshuva and forgiveness and new beginnings. Another midrash elaborates and says, God said to Moses, don't be upset about those first tablets. They had only the 10 commandments, but the second tablets, they've got halakha, the Jewish law, midrash and agadah, all the lore and legends. In other words, all the areas of rabbinic creativity, that part that human beings collaborated, that's the second tablets. That's the earthly human tablets. So I wanted to open up for a few minutes, just to ask you, why was it important to win the tug of war? Why was it important to have the second tablets and not the original divine perfect ones, but to have ones written with Moses' help? And although I haven't learned everybody's name yet, maybe you'll point people out. Anybody who think, why would it be important to have second tablets? Yes.
So I'm from out of town. My name's Ariella, so I will make you guess my name.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think the issue is.
Yeah.
So I think the issue is that if it comes from on high and we have no participation in it, then it just feels like something that was put on us, and we haven't been part of the creative process, so we don't have ownership. And if you have ownership in the process, it's like democracy versus something that's just, a king giving you the laws.
Beautiful. And I think you said something so true for Judaism, which is in which we're divine partners, and also for congregations too. When people are part of the process, right? Then they really have that ownership. Any other thoughts about why was it important to have a second set of tablets? Yes. Here's your microphone. Okay.
It's a part of the it's renewal process to which you're very familiar with. It's part of the renewal process, and the Israelites strayed, obviously, the golden calf, etc. But they are repentant, and there's a need for a kind of renewal. And when you get the second tablets, it's like a beginning, a new beginning, and that's I think that's really in the Torah, in a sense. It is a new beginning. That's what it is. So that to me symbolizes the new beginning.
Thank you so much. Yes, and this is what Judaism's been doing throughout all the generations, right? Renewing and beginning again, right? Yes.
So the story sets up the story 40 years later, when Moses is not allowed in the promised land.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I believe he didn't get there was because of the tablets being broken. So that set up
There's a lot of
the story.
Could be a lot of different reasons given. So could be. It's
Let me take a shot at this.
yeah.
There's a line afterwards, and I'm trying to recall, but it's the Torah is now on earth. And there's a story that the Torah, a direct line from the Torah, and there's a wonderful midrash about rabbis who are arguing, and the house is shaking and everything else. And one says to the other, the Torah is still on earth. So the second Torah with the human participation sets up this denouement.
Right.
The Torah being on earth.
Lo b'shamayim hi, it's not in heaven. And that's a very famous episode where the rabbis are arguing. And so all these things, we have ownership, we can renew it. We can, maybe it could have been part of Moses' story, and that possibly that's one of his wrongdoings, although in this case the midrash sees it as something positive that he did, and he's bringing Torah down to earth. Yeah.
I originally was going to say what Ariella had shared, but also in thinking about when you redo something or piece something back together, sometimes the bond is stronger. So in doing and repeating it, you've made the connection with God stronger.
And maybe even in our own relationships too, sometimes when something is broken, a relationship is broken, but it's repaired, it's stronger than it was when it just seemed to be perfect. Yeah. Yes.
Al Hoffman.
Hi, Al.
A contrary view.
Okay, good. Okay.
And that is we have a midrash that says that Kodesh Baruch Hu offered Torah to
Yeah.
and the 10 Commandments, but specifically to other nations, and they all wanted to know what's in it
Yeah.
before they accepted it.
Yeah.
Midrash says that when offered to the children of Israel, we said Naaseh v'nishma,
Right.
that we'll observe it, and then we'll start to understand it. We'll hear after we start to observe it what it contains.
Yeah.
So unconditional acceptance of the commandments in Torah, so that not only didn't we have to hear it a second time, we didn't even have to hear it a first time. We
Okay.
accepted it in advance, according to the Midrash.
Thank you. That's a great midrash. Thank you so much. And maybe even with those pieces broken, before we even saw the writing on it, we accepted it. So thank you for all those wonderful ideas and showing, the many facets of how we can understand what's in the Torah, what's in the rabbinic lore. Now, some of my thoughts about it are when Moses, why we read this one, again, it's not the reason. This isn't like, oh, this is the right reason. You've already seen that there's many different ways to interpret. But the way I see it right now is that that's when Judaism began. That's why we read this 3 times a year, because this was the very foundation of Torah. Better to have broken tablets here on earth than perfect ones up in the sky, right? And sometimes people think religion is something focused on heaven, on enlightenment, but Judaism is more, not that we don't believe in things about heaven or, higher worlds, but we tend to be a very this worldly focused religion and orientation. And when we break things, Judaism, as you know, we just had the days of awe, outlines for us the path of teshuvah, return, rebuilding, renewal. Judaism knows this world is broken in a lot of ways, and we are tasked with doing the tikkun olam, with the repair of this world. We had to have tablets carved by the hand of a human, Moshe's strong hand, the very hand that wrested the tablets from heaven in the Midrash, because in Judaism, we are God's partners on earth, and our hands are the hands of God in the world. And our name, as you know, Yisrael, we are, as Rabbi Arthur Waska said, we are the God wrestlers. We're wrestling with God and wrestling with the tablets. And a deeper secret of Torah is that breaking is necessary for growth. Breaking is necessary for creativity, for things to happen. There's in Kabbalah, one of the doctrines is Shvirat HaKelim, the shattering of the vessels, that this is kind of a Big Bang theory of Kabbalah, that this world inherently had broken things, but that's okay because we're going to lift up those sparks. One of the Renaissance period mystics, Menachem Azaria Fano, said, just as a seed cannot grow to perfection as long as it maintains its original form, growth coming only through decomposition, so the original points of light, divine light, could not become perfect as long as they maintained their original form, but only by shattering. So one more level, and then I'll conclude. On a personal level, this story that we read 3 times a year to me says something deep about our own personal lives, that it's okay for us to be broken and imperfect. In fact, in that very same page of the Babylonian Talmud that I mentioned, they say that the broken tablets were there in the ark along with the whole ones to show us that we must honor people who are imperfect, people who are broken down, people who have lost certain faculties. We must honor them and put them in the holy ark to receive our, so to speak, of our hearts, to receive honor. One of the things I do that I really enjoy is I participate in a memoir writing group, and we're all writing our books of life and looking back on our experiences through life. And we find again and again that those experiences of breaking and shattering and picking up the pieces That's what made us who we are. But sometimes it took decades or a lifetime to have the perspective. So in the arc of our hearts, we need not only our youthful wholeness and ideals, but we need all the broken pieces. We need all the painful shards that come from a lifetime of living. And I invite you to gently consider what are some of the broken pieces that you're carrying right now in the arc of your own heart. What are those shattered bits of life that make you who you are? So I pray that even in the tumultuous times that we're living right now, when the world seems to be breaking apart every day, that we can remember this message of our Torah, that breaking can lead to new beginnings, even if they are new beginnings born in struggle. And I pray too that each of us can give ourselves a yasher koach for those times when, like Moses, we grasped hold and refused to let go of life's potential, even at the most difficult and challenging moments. I want to bless all of us to honor the broken pieces of our lives along with the whole ones, and to hold both of them with love and reverence in our heart, to bear them together in the arc of our hearts. And to this blessing, I hope you can say, Amen. Thank you. Thank you.